Hey everybody, Jimmy Smith back for my next fight breakdown / moneyline advice for this time UFC on ESPN 60, Lemos versus Jandiroba. Once again, it's a fight night card at the Apex. It's not anything spectacular. I'm not seeing a lot of breakout fighters on here. We're going to see what they can do to the next level. It's kind of a lot of guys and gals who are kind of in the same spot a little bit. And we might be separating a little bit of wheat from the chaff here in that I see more losers getting cut than I see winners moving on to title shots or anything like that. So, it's partly what, Apex fights are for. So, start out on the main card. Bill Algeo versus Choy. Featherweight division fight. This is a weird one in that Choy has been not just inactive in that one fight since 2019. Might have something to do with his military service, but he did the same thing in 2016. He had about a year off in 2016. He's just never been particularly active. Hasn't had a win since 2016 over a shot Thiago Tavares. Last time the guy won. 3 losses and a draw since then. Once in 2016, once in 2018, once in 2019, once in 2023. That's not a winning schedule, period. That's not a professional schedule. That's not the schedule of a professional mixed martial artist. He's going to do something in the division, especially this division, which is pretty tough. Bill Algeo, a veteran guy, 2-2 in his last 4, but has at least been frickin' fighting. In fact, been fighting a lot in the last few years. It's almost the exact opposite. He fought twice in 2023, 3 times in 2022. He's been really active. Already has one in 2024 against Kyle Nelson, lost that by TKO in the first round. So, hasn't beaten anybody great. Did beat Alexander Hernandez. I was never sold on Alexander Hernandez. I think Cowboy beat the career out of him. But, so it does have a kind of a name win there, but I don't think there's a ton behind it. He's just fighting a guy who hasn't done anything in years. So, looking at the odds, he's only a minus 170 favorite. I'm looking at DraftKings right now. Only minus 170. You kidding me? At minus 170, Bill Algeo against a guy who hasn't won since 2016. Got to go with Bill Algeo. The over is minus 180. The under is plus 140. Go under. Go with the favorite, Bill Algeo. I think he has a great chance in this one. I don't know why Choy is still on the roster. It could be saving a Korean fighter for Korean Showcase. They tend to like to keep guys like that for when they go to Korea. All right, moving on. So next fight up on the main card is in the flyweight division. Cody Durden versus Bruno Silva. These two guys, when I was studying this one, checking it out, they're in really similar places. They are, as I said with this card, there's not a lot of breakout guys. It's guys who are in similar spots, looking to see who's better. He had a 4-fight win streak, snapped in his last fight. That was Cody Durden. Against Ulanbekov, that was by basically face crank. Just a little bit of time left to go in round number 2, if I remember it correctly. And Bruno Silva is on a 3-fight win streak, but lost 2 before then. So 2 guys were trying to see where they are at 125 pounds. The thing Bruno Silva has is he is an excellent finisher, especially considering 125 flyweight division doesn't have a lot of great finishers in it. He's, of course, athletic, he's fast, he's versatile. Everybody has that. But it's this idea that while Durden tends to win by decision, that 4-fight win streak I was talking about, 3 of them by decision, he tends to outgrind guys, tends to outwork them a bit, doesn't have the finishing power of a Bruno Silva. And at 125 in a division that doesn't have a lot of that a lot of times is your trump card. I got to go with Bruno Silva in this one. Basically even odds, by the way. Silva minus 105. Durden minus 115, so a coin flip fight as far as DraftKings sees it. Obviously, the over is minus 215, so definitely the odds are favoring the over. So if you want to make some money at plus 160, go with the under, because once again, Bruno Silva is an excellent finisher, which is why I'm going with him. So I'm going with Bruno Silva. Take the under for the money, for sure. Kurt Hala. All right, don't get me started on Ultimate Fighter rant. I don't think it's been relevant in years, and Kurt Hala winning is just one of those examples of a guy who had a UFC career that didn't work out. He gets back on because of the comeback nature of the last Ultimate Fighter. It was new guys versus established veterans, and the established veterans just wiped the floor with the new guys for the most part. And Kurt Hala, the winner of that season. And the interesting thing is he wins the Ultimate Fighter, gets his second chance, loses to Trey Ogden in his first fight by unanimous decision back in the UFC. He's just not a great fighter. Also, at 37 years old, guys start slowing down. They're late 30s, especially in weight classes below like 185. It's really tough. Well, he's 37, he's a 155-pounder. So, Kenan Khrushchevsky is his opponent, from Brazil, but Polish background, which is why the name is interesting. But this is a guy who lost his last one, but that was his UFC debut, got in through the Contender Series. Don't know much about him. The one fight he had didn't tell us that much. It was over in 4 minutes. He lost by knockout. Hasn't taken on great talent. Kurt Hala, the veteran guy who's been through more, but hasn't shown us greatness in the UFC. That's why he needed the Ultimate Fighter to come back. So it's a known quality who isn't great against an unknown quality. Well, right now, the odds somewhat favor Khrushchevsky at -135. Not a whole lot, but, make a little bit of money on Hala, but I don't trust him for an upset. The over 2.5 is +100. The under is -130, so you're not going to make a ton of money on any of it. My gut tells me Khrushchevsky, just because I haven't had faith in an Ultimate Fighter winner in God knows how long. That hasn't been a great one that has been title worthy. The fact that they were veterans who came back and fought for another shot, they're just a little bit older. They're the same guys, a little bit older than they were. So I got to go with Khrushchevsky, who's just a little bit younger than Kurt Hala. I would go by decision. Now, Steve Garcia versus Seungwoo Choy. Steve Garcia was a guy, I called a lot of his fights in Bellator back in the day at 135 pounds. And his whole thing then was he was young, right? It was this young buck, this up-and-comer. The problem is he tended to get ragdolled a little bit in losses. I remember he lost to Joe Warren, stuff like that. He kind of got tossed around. Tall, skinny, and young. And he just didn't quite have the man strength to compete even at 135 pounds. So Steve Garcia was technical, did have good accuracy, does throw good combinations, but he just didn't quite have the man strength when he was in Bellator. Well, he's a little bit older now, and it's shown. In the UFC, he's 6 foot, which is really, really tall for a 145er. But he's won 3 in a row, all by finish. And that was one thing he didn't really have early on in his career. He had good accuracy. Wasn't a great finisher. He just didn't have that, once again, that power that you get when you're a little bit older, you get into your late 20s. He's got it now. And a great fighter, a contender, 145, 55, very, very tough weight classes. That's saying a lot. But Seungwoo Choy is a guy who, in his last 4, he's lost 3 of them. Bruce Leroy Caceres, Joshua Kulabau, and Michael Trezano. Not great fighters by any stretch of the imagination, and finished in 2 out of 3 of those. So that's the interesting thing to me is he's made some mistakes, and he's paid. Got a unanimous decision last time around, but once again, a guy that I don't know if he's long for the UFC, period. Steve Garcia, I don't have a ton of faith in him, but, good accuracy, good volume, good pacing. I would favor definitely Steve Garcia in this fight. And momentum's on his side. He's won 3 in a row. Steve Garcia, a slight favorite, -150. Not as high as I thought it would be. Once again, these odds, the favorites to me should be bigger favorites than they are. So I would go with Steve Garcia in this one for sure. I would say Steve Garcia, when I look at the over-under, probably over, which you can get one +150 over a round and a half. Steve Garcia, a decent finisher in the last few fights, but not a one-shot guy necessarily. So I wouldn't mind going for the over for plus money on that one. All right, Brad Tavares, Jun Yong Park. Brad Tavares, a gatekeeper at 185 pounds. He's never been great. He's never been a great fighter by any stretch of the imagination. Just kind of solid, physical. If you can beat him, especially if you can finish him, it shows you're ready for the next level. Or it showed at one point that you were ready for the next level. And that's a very important thing. The guy is 20-9 overall. Look at the guys who have beaten him. Bruno Silva, Dracus du Plessis, Edmund Shabazian, Israel Adesanya. Now, last time around, lost by knockout to Gregory Rodriguez. And the problem I'm having is the last 2 he got knocked out, he's starting to get a little bit chinny. He's just taking a lot of shots. It's getting easier to get past him. Now, everybody other than Gregory Rodriguez, right? You're looking at, Dracus du Plessis, Edmund Shabazian, Israel Adesanya. Edmund Shabazian at the time was a really rock-solid up-and-comer. We thought he might be great. He stumbled since then, but he was great at the time. So he's lost to really good guys, and he's always been physically very, very solid. I think his chin's starting to go just a little bit. He's getting knocked down and knocked out with a little bit more frequency. But Jun Yong Park is not a knockout guy. The Iron Turtle is his nickname, if that tells you anything. He just grinds you out. He has a decent submission game. Rear naked chokes tend to be how he gets it done. What does that tell you? He's opportunistic. He grinds and grinds and grinds, and you turn your back and you give something up. Not that he has a blazing submission game, not going to do anything tricky, not going to do anything special, but he's not a knockout guy. So the one thing I think Brad Tavares is starting to lose, once again, starting to get a little chinny, this is a guy who hasn't won by knockout in the UFC at all, hasn't won by knockout since 2018. So I don't think he has the power to really test the chin of Brad Tavares. So you got to take him down, got to get good position, got to wear on him. But Brad Tavares is still a big guy. And it's not going to be easy for Young Park to just take him down. So when I look at the odds, it is Park minus 162. I disagree. I'm going with the upside on this one. I'm going with Brad Tavares, probably by decision. And the over is very, very favored at 2.5. So you're not going to make any money there, but you will make money on Brad Tavares. I think the upset is certainly a possibility, considering the strengths of Park don't play to the weaknesses of Brad Tavares, who was still a big physical 185-pounder. There you go. On to our main event, Amanda Lemos versus Virna Jandiroba. I think I called one of Jandiroba's fights in Invicta, if I'm not mistaken. She was like, had some crazy record when she left Invicta. She was like 20-1 or 20-0 or something like that. When she came to the UFC, I really thought that she would kind of make an instant impact. Yeah, she's undefeated when she made her UFC debut. And she lost to Carla Esparza, Mackenzie Dern fight, Amanda Ribas. Excellent names, all right? Excellent names. But when you look at those fights, she tends to lose in the same way, which is she has one gear, she's big, she's solid, she's physical, but when she falls behind, she doesn't hit that third and fourth gear to catch up. She doesn't have that in her. It's really weird. Pat Curran was kind of like that, where when I would call his fights, when he was ahead, he'd be great. When he'd be behind and he needed okay, hit the F it button. You got to do something here. He typically didn't. He kind of fought at the same pace the whole time, which is great when you're a front runner and you're ahead. It's bad when you are behind. So Jandiroba has a little bit of that as well, where she tends to win a lot of decisions. She's on a 3-fight win streak, all of them decisions. And what she tends to do is get ahead and stay ahead. And that's nice. But when you're taking on veteran fighters who play the game a little better, who know when to explode, who know when to attack a little bit better, they have a tendency to make you fall behind and then make you catch up. And Jandiroba isn't a catch-up person. When I watched her UFC debut, I can say it, against Carla Esparza, I remember looking and going, just turn it up a little more. I mean, Esparza's ahead, but she's not destroying you. Go in there and make it a little more. And she just kind of coasted the whole time. And it cost her a decision in her UFC debut. And Amanda Lemos, a veteran fighter, and it's going to be one of those things where I think she can turn it on and maybe get Jandiroba behind and stay there, right? And keep her kind of on the back burner for 25 minutes. Weili Zhang fight, she just got owned in that fight. Absolutely destroyed. And a lot of times when a fighter gets destroyed by the champion, the bounce back is really tough, right? You got all the way there, you fell short, and also, fell short in a way that I don't think you'd beat her if you guys fought 10 times. That mental bounce back is very, very difficult. And I don't remember if I favored her against Mackenzie Dern or not when they fought last time. But that bounce back fight can be tough. She won. She beat a very tough Mackenzie Dern in the bounce back fight. So mentally, she righted the ship to the point where I don't think the loss to Weili Zhang, as dominant as it was, is going to cause any kind of hangover in this fight. So big win over Mackenzie Dern. That was by unanimous decision. I don't like the pacing of Jandiroba in fights like this. Jandiroba right now, I'm minus 135 favorite, which makes me think for the money, I got to go with Amanda Lemos at plus 114. The over is only minus 175, not as high as I thought it would be, considering both these fighters tend to win by decision. So I got to go with the over, and I got to go with Amanda Lemos in a slight upset over Virna Jandiroba. I think she gets ahead, and Jandiroba doesn't quite catch up. So it's probably a decision win for Amanda Lemos. As always, I will own my picks come Monday. Enjoy your weekend.